The biggest mistake a lot of people make, or even I have been making, is focusing only on revenue. And we're going to look at the metric that you have to optimize for is revenue divided by time. What is the time you're spending in the business? As entrepreneurs building long-lasting companies, you cannot be doing everything. Your business is going to scale exponentially if for every additional crore or that you're making, you're spending no more additional time. How many of you think hiring is a pain? It's a plague. It's like AI. Really, really complex. So the one thing you should do is, what I come up with is webinar hiring formula.
Like we always say, right, that AI is so amazing because it enables human beings to focus on what they really can add value to, right? So this is something that I definitely love to learn from this amazing individual I'm about to introduce. And I'm extremely happy that though he's from like the first batch of Quantum and I'm from the last batch of Quantum, we somehow or the other hit it off really well, and I felt like he came into my life as one of those angels as well. So like Sid says, in every group there are all types. Well, I definitely love to learn from this individual because, of course, his core expertise, like Sid already says it, he's a geek. His core expertise is artificial intelligence and Web 3.0, and he got into ILH just about 1.5 years back, which is, I think, May 2021. He has about 1,200 people that he's impacted, if you talk about numbers. He's done his BTech and his MTech, both from IIT Madras. He then went on to do his MS from Columbia University. But the best part is that today his courses are jointly certified by IIT Madras. Yeah, come on. Big round of applause, because that's not an institute that does this easily. And in just about 1.5 years in ILH, he's gone ahead and made a humble yet awesome 3.8 crores. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen him without a smile, so I think that's his superpower. But he believes there are a lot of others things that are his superpower. But I'd love to share this about him, that at one point in time, he was a world-class gamer. A world-class gamer, all right? He's survived, he says, in his own words, 2 Vipassanas. Okay? All right? And he's also been somebody who calls his power, his superpower, the fact that he's a data ninja. Yeah? Please help me welcome the founder of Pixel Tests, Jay. Come on, guys. Louder, louder round of applause. You don't need that. It's his first time on stage. Come on, louder, louder, louder.
I don't do that. The shirt doesn't fit well, so. Thank you so much, Pallavi and Siddharth, for the very, very, very warm welcome. I remember the first time on my stage was in 8th grade. It was a public oration. You have public speaking. Kids might know it. And I definitely was like second last in that competition. So, and the second time was for my Sangeet. I remember my ex-wife. She was really upset at the way I danced. So now third time's the charm, like they say, right? Cool. So let's do the slides. So I want to start with some very interesting statistic that I had come across. All right. So did you know that the oldest company in the world surviving is 1445 years old. Yes, it's a Japanese company. Name's complex, so I'm not going to talk about that. And the average age of a business company is 32 years old. 32 years. Now let's pause for a second and just introspect on that. How long term should our long term thinking be? And what is it that's going to drive that? That's the objective of this conversation. And hopefully, I'll be able to impress upon you some key takeaways, and you can design your businesses from a long term perspective, as opposed to a short term perspective. So, again, what is the connection here? I believe the single biggest asset is grooming your teams. One word, teams. Right? So the agenda I've prepared is, start with the results, because there's some humble brag there. Then second is the story, because that's the format. You have to know me a little better, the lows and the ups. And finally, the key takeaways. And as always, I'm going to do the 3 takeaways that you should have. I don't know why people do that. They should just have like 1 or 2 or no takeaways, right? I think let's blame it on Ankur Wariku. Cool. So one other request I have is I would really encourage you to think about Sid's models very, very deeply. And we're going to see some of the applications of that, taking each one of them and applying recursively to every function and unit of your business. Okay, so quick show of hands. How many webinars do you do? Automated, live, everything? 7, 10, 2, 3, 10. So let's say in a year, how many do you do? 50, let's say 60, 300 with automated, etc. Right? I've done 0 in the preceding 1 year. I'm not talking about automated, like literally 0. Yeah, thank you. Applause, applause. I'm a little shy for applause, so yeah. And it's really simple if you decode and apply the elements that Sid's taught us, or is teaching us, or is hammering. And the results. What is the most important thing on this graph, on this slide? Yes, graph's increasing. We all love that. Sakshi? Yeah. It's the smaller format bubble that I quickly made up. The 10 hours per week is the single most important. The biggest mistake a lot of people make, or even I have been making, is focusing only on revenue. And we're going to look at the metric that you have to optimize for is revenue divided by time. What is the time you're spending in the business? And I'm not talking about just webinars, but all of the lead time, the preparation time, the anxiety, all those, all the hangover you get, when you have no sales post a webinar. So, can I share with you my journey? So my story is simple. Born in a Telugu middle-class family, and so obviously the biggest thing was academics. So I was on this date once, and she asked me, "You're Telugu, so you must have been fed steroids of maths, physics, chemistry." She was not completely untrue. So academics was the biggest thing, and I ranked 1 in a country. Turns out the country was Kuwait, which is the smallest country in the world. So I have some very nice things there. Second failure, go through the whole grind, the dog and pony show of IIT and JEE and all of that. So did my BTech and MTech. And did the dog and pony show stop? No. Apparently, you have to go, if you're Telugu, to the US, do your master's, and only then can you do your honeymoon, right? So, how many of you married to IITians? Or, like, of IITians. How many of you are sending your kids to IITians? Yeah. There you go, exactly. So that drama ended there. this. Thank you. I knew that joke was like, I needed to test it a bit. Yeah. And then, so at the time, my girlfriend, she's like, okay, the degrees are great. And I love like what one of the speakers mentioned, which is intellectually rich but financially poor. It's like flakes, like dandruff. I think all of us have in plenty of that. So she said, get a job, show me the offer letter, and then I'm going to introduce you to my dad, which seemed legit from her perspective. So go on, get a job at American Express, pays standard 7 figures. And then obviously, anybody who's been an entrepreneur, it's a seed that comes in and starts germinating, right? So after meeting the dad, etc., after a year, I quit that. Actually, I'm lying. I got displaced. I did get a job very quickly, but because, yeah. And then, so moved to India, started my first college chat app. How many of you remember Secret and all of these, chat applications were very, very big. So in those days, anybody who had, an IIT degree just raised tons of cash in a wheelbarrow. So started that. That was my first success. Burned through 70 lakhs of my own money through that. And obviously, you have to be perseverant. Obviously, entrepreneurship is about, failure. So burned through another 90 lakhs for my second application. We were trying to do college bus application tracking, school bus tracking application. Do not ask me how I got the idea, because obviously I'm going to be telling you a very, very passionate story behind that. Met a friend for drinks, and his kid was apparently not logistically safe, so we developed that. Burned there. Third real success was, so I used AI to detect cancer. Actually, diabetic retinopathy, neuropathy. There's a radiologist in the room, so very, very great work in terms of looking at MRI scans, CT scans, and trying to detect a morbidity that a doctor cannot find. So very gratifying, probably more gratifying than this education technology, because, however, turns out some people, and this is not meant in anybody, people who I've seen are more arrogant than IITians are actually doctors, radiologists. Turns out behavioral change in them is the most difficult. So we made some cash, but that geometric progression was not happening. So something else was going on. So by this time, I really, yeah, 1 second. And by this time, it was year 2020. Everybody's been saying, what happened in 2020, right? Turns out, the business did not tank because of COVID. The business tanked because the model was flawed, right? There was really no pain point. So I'm not going to blame it on COVID, just usual lethargy and go-to-market strategy, right? So don't blame on COVID everything, okay? Take responsibility for some things, right? So obviously, loved Siddharth's quote. Remember that, people fail, systems work. Degrees definitely fail. Systems will work, provided you know how to build a system. By this time, I had definitely more bankruptcies than girlfriends. That's 1 + 1. Thank you. 1 was the ex-wife. Also, there's 11 there. Chapter 11. Sorry? Yeah, so 11 is like the US bankruptcy, right? Chapter 11. Okay. So yeah, that worked. Definitely applause there. Okay, so cool. So by this time, I was definitely good in like fundraising, marketing, sales, one-on-one. Loved how to, everybody loved Jay was coming. Okay, great conversation, but the doctors were not paying up, right? I had one particular doctor who gave me a check, and then he said, "Stop payment check instructions." Like by the time I went to the bank to deposit, that check was not valid. That's possible. That is possible. For those of you who've been in enterprise sales. So cool. So definitely knew a couple of things were very clear. Like I did not know digital marketing. That was one weakness. And so when I started coming to Sid's community, and I started trying a bunch of coaches because I knew that was the one weakness I wanted to fix. So that was the logical next step. And tried a few coaches. The vibe wasn't there. And then, thankfully, the Vipassana worked that I tried. And somewhere there was some connection. A lot of you talked about connection, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. He showed his grandpa's picture, and that was the connect. Except my own grandpa, he was a big flirt, so. But there was a connection. Some connection was there. I'm saying my grandfather was a flirt, Mitesh. I mean, that's my grandmom's perspective. So, yeah. So, cool. Went through the grind, etc. Started clocking the hours. The whole checklist that he gives, which is like 420 pages long. Yeah, she got it, 420. And then, so I was doing everything on my own, which is August 19th. Quick backdrop. Joined his, saw the webinar first on April 26th, and then I think he downloaded the PDF, and then there was also a concurrent email that came in. So I opened another tab, and I was seeing him live on 2 places, and I was like, wait, what is going on? How can he be live at 2 places? That really hit me. I mean, the guy's smart. So upgraded in like 2 weeks to Diamond, because there was this one thing a professor at Columbia told me very nicely. He said, Jay is about, life is about 2 things. I mean, one is MBA. Like, I was taking courses in the MBA section. MBA is like, no offense to anybody. MBA is like, Master of Bullshit Administration. Turns out, it really means not only should you be able to BS, you should be able to see when the other person is BSing with you. So I definitely knew which of the coaches, the sync was not there. Thankfully this happened. So measured all the time linearly, like where was the biggest, time sinks going on, measuring all the mundane and repetitive activities. And I would, pause there so that you guys make a mental note. Don't write anything just yet. Make a mental note of what are the things that are going to be taking most time. And I've just found, these are the biggest. Operations is going to suck 60 to 70% of your time because even in AI, I get most emails asking, forgot password. So then sales is another time sink, and community building and tribe building, right? So, so I started to fix each and one of these elements in terms of recursively using Sid's concepts, right? Once I had my first 2-3 hires, I started seeing that the revenue was increasing linearly. Revenue started increasing, but I was spending half as much time. And I became obsessed about this metric, revenue by time. Please write that down, R divided by T. Measure the time that's going on. So this is a graph you should be paying attention to. Please measure every unit and function where your time is going. As entrepreneurs building long-lasting companies, you cannot be doing everything. Check every assumption. Cool. Call to action. Another metric I found very useful is for every additional crore you're going to make, and all of you are going to make crores, check how much incremental time you're taking. Your business is going to scale exponentially if for every additional crore or that you're making, you're spending no more additional time. Yeah. Yeah, you can take a snapshot if you're. So the team does operations, webinar, sales. I think I've proved it beyond doubt. Now something started clicking. I was like, okay, what is the other one function that the team can do? Quick answers. Avi? Okay, decision making. Anybody else? Indu? You guys ready for this? You sure? I'm not going to make you stand up. It's the last but one session. It's fine. I'm not that mean. What is the one thing that you're most scared of? And that you are holding? Come on, let go of it. Freedom means free in everything. It's the ads. I'm not talking about performance marketing, not the agency that's not doing your ads well, the actual video actors. Hire them. Hire them. And I'm going to show you step by step how to go about hiring that. Is that okay? Cool. Yeah. Like I said, take Sid's concepts deeply, apply it to every function of your business, right? So, what are the qualities you look for in a team? Quickly. Apart from skills and values, and you should be spiritual and all that, which is great. Okay, one thing I would request you to see as you're building your teams, and remember, we are building teams for 30 years, 40 years. There will be a time when you're not going to be doing webinars. Agreed? Not just now and saying, oh, my webinar's running automated. No. There will literally be time when rationality will break down or something will happen. You have to design and work very hard now to make sure you're taking that gap there, right? First thing is genuine curiosity. Hire people who push you back. One measurement I've seen is how many times on WhatsApp or interaction they say, Jay, why are we doing this? Why? I've seen frequently we are dependent thinkers. Find that independent thinker. And I'll show you also how to go about hiring. A genuine, second quality, a genuine ability to impress others at scale. Again, let's backtrack. A genuine ability to impress others at scale. Frequently, I've seen, for most roles, because we are B2C, we are consumer-facing companies, it's best to hire a person who's actually been doing something from childhood or has signals that he's actually been in front of an audience. That is actually non-trivial. For instance, Sachi, who's also here, where are you? My team member. Not Sakshi, Savyasachi, one of my team members. So one thing I noticed, I'll introduce you to him later, we'll flip the order. The context is, he's actually one of India's national yoga champions. I've seen some other people also who are good at performance arts, dance, really do well as team hires. Because they have that innate ability to impress others. Make sense? Yeah, just keep these concepts. Okay. Next, have a tech-first approach to everything. Your salespeople, your operations people, everybody should have a tech-first approach to everything. For instance, that's easy to measure. For instance, just check if your sales team, post-webinar sales team, is actually sending WhatsApps, how are they corresponding with the prospects, etc. I've frequently seen somebody who worked at a larger MNC, maybe who's tried a startup, etc., are reasonably good at this. Because they know the big company processes, so they know where you will get to, and they also know the small startup hustles, right? So I would say these are the qualities you should look as you're building something long-term, apart from skills and values. Okay, how many of you think hiring is a pain? It's a plague. It's like AI, really, really complex. So again, really, the thing that hit me hard was Siddharth's, webinar selling formula, etc. And how do you go about doing the next step? So the one thing you should do is, what I come up with is webinar hiring formula. So let me decode that really quickly. What you should do is webinar hiring formula for X. So let's say you're trying to get your post-webinar salespeople or your webinar salespeople. First thing, have a webinar. You all are experts at webinars. Take the same 90-minute webinar, but chop it off at 60 minutes, and then the last 30 minutes, instead of pitching, because it's not a prospect, you pitch to a prospective employee. For instance, for sales, you're going to say, hey, this is what you do, this is the task you have to submit by 24 hours, just sell a 1,000 rupee funnel, that's it. Does that make sense? Okay? Automate that. Put that in your EverWebinar or webinar field. This could be applied to other functions. For instance, if you want a post-webinar sales team, yeah, so this is the example I've told. Suppose you need operations. Operations is by far the biggest time sink I've noticed. Get ninjas there. Again, most of the crowd is not trained on simple Excel. You keep a training video. You literally have to be a ninja at Excel, make the entire webinar, and give them 2 action items, and then tell them to submit by 24 hours. Automate that. Same thing for editors. How many of you are actually doing the editing and have an editing team or building your organic? Do the same thing for editors. Content. So we, in our niche, and I'm going to talk about it towards the end, blog writing is a big pain. Writing genuine content, copywriting is a pain. Again, same formula. Take 1.5 hours of your webinar, but instead of selling the products, sell yourself. Hey, this is a great company, this is what I'm doing, this is my mission, can you join us? I'm going to explain and handhold you how to write a blog. Why is that important? So everybody understands the webinar hiring formula for X and how you can automate it. So now you can have like 7, 8 webinars in your ever webinar. And the traffic you get from Naukri, LinkedIn, Angel, so on and so forth, that you can get, and also from your community. So now we have about 8, 9 webinars, not the automated webinars for sales, but for the hiring happening all the time. Because finding a good person is like finding a needle in the haystack. It's much more important to find a recruiter, an employee, than even probably a spouse. Okay. Yeah. Be generous, please. Thank you. The other time sink I'm sure you guys have seen is actually the training. I call that faculty. So for each and every function, including the hackathons, hire. Just hire. There are better trainers than you. That's the moral of the story, right? But there are very few people who are going to design a company for 30 to 50 to 60, 70 years. That's where the compounding will happen. Another thing that I've seen is training is a great form of marketing. Marketing your values, marketing your mission, etc. Why is this important? I've seen student loyalty is greater than employee loyalty. How many of you have seen employees that are lateral hires will always try to milk you and then leave? Agreed? Train them. Do you see the adulation you have for Siddharth? So studies have shown if you see a person for 20 hours straight in a video, remember this, 20 hours straight in a video, they're either going to love you to bits or hate you to bits. So get as many people to love you. Make sense? So I've seen that maximize the chance of a student to convert to an employee. Try to recruit as many students as possible. That doesn't mean only your community members, but that also means put a training funnel. For instance, we don't have any business in content, right? But I have so many content, how to write a blog, how to write a LinkedIn post, etc. They see that, they warm up, I don't know, they fall in love with me. Wish that was happening in other areas. Okay. So I just wanted to show a little glimpse of my own Teachable. We have only 2 courses, which is the AI and Web3, like Pallavi explained. But I have at least about 15 other courses just training the people with specific checkpoints on their milestones. So what is going on again? Automated webinar, hiring formula, training, checkpoints. They get the certificate, we call them. That's it. So this is the... Thank you. Thank you. So broadly, this is the composition right now. At steady state, depending on how your business is sort of set up, the architecture, sales to post-webinar sales, 3, 4, some juniors. And this works well with agencies as well. How many of you are plagued with agency troubles? Raise your hands, quickly. This works well with agencies too. Keep 2 agencies redundant for every function. Like if somebody's doing a Facebook, make sure that you have 2 people. Ideally, one should be insourced, one should be outsourced. So that they compete with each other, they don't know about each other. That's actually easy to set up if you have different tracking codes. Next, so finally the results. I have precisely 1 webinar, free webinar, 1 free funnel, 1 product, 1 each for blockchain and AI. Just wanted to share some of the results. Sorry, the screen's not on, the font size is not best. Tracking is essential, but many of you feel tracking is great. You have to track it, like many of the other speakers said. But one caveat I would say is also make sure you only track 3 numbers. Don't be in the tracking paralysis. Only 3 numbers, and that's it. Which should be your ROAS, and like Sid says, L1 and the CPL. That's it. Don't get into analysis by paralysis. Can I share a few of the mistakes I've made doing all of this? Sure, thank you. One is, don't be cheap on your way to greatness. Don't be cheap with your team. A 30-year team is going to see you. Not now. They will get the insight in 1 or 2, 3 years. So one thing is, I've seen one thing, do not do profit sharing, please. You have a fiduciary responsibility to your business, to your brand. Do not do profit sharing. It's better to do equity. Typically, 1 to 5% is okay in the early stages of any company, depending on full-time hires. Okay, two last bonuses. One bonus. How many of you have a challenge with finishing or getting people to the Hall of Fames? Okay, so I've come up with this, again, SIDS, but my own variant on SIDS methods is the HOF greedy approach. So just bear with me, it's very simple. How many of you have seen the recent Crorepati checklist of SIDS, which has, again, 420 items? Yeah. One point there is, he says, accelerate to 100 Hall of Fames. Everybody remembers that? Okay, so what is your strategy to do that? So if 100 people have to come to Hall of Fame, that means you should have had, like, let's say, 1,000 sales. They're in your L1. They should go all the way, climb and summit Mount Everest, depending on your courses, right? So that is great, and no offense to anybody. One thing I found is segment. So there's an approach called greedy approach in computer science, wherein suppose if you're flying from here, Chennai, to Delhi, you actually only take the steps that's to that end. Seems very simple. It is very simple. It's called the greedy algorithm, very popular algorithm, used in Netflix, Microsoft. So how do we apply it here? Work backwards from your Hall of Fame target prospect. I repeat, work backwards from your Hall of Fame target prospect. Who's my target prospect? So I'm in the AI niche. My target prospect is not somebody who wants to learn AI. It is actually somebody who is struggling with AI interviews. Do you see that subtle change? Another example. Let's say you're in the belly fat loss niche. Your target prospect for HOF is somebody who's reduced weight, right? That's the end. That's what you're going to interview, theoretically. Your prospect target is somebody who has already tried a few coaches and is not getting results, as opposed to somebody who's just a couch potato and has not done anything. Does that make sense? Yeah, so just hang on to that concept. Work backwards and redesign your ad copy and your customer acquisition strategy based on that. For instance, here are two ad copies. One is, are you struggling with your current job and want to move to an AI job? That's the vanilla ad copy. But that's going to attract Karan, Johar, some person, Karan, who has no idea about AI, but he just is warmed up about AI, right? That's on the left. On the right is a subtler change. Are you struggling to crack AI interviews or jobs? That will get you a person who's only 3 months away from Hall of Fame. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So, thank you. I call it the greedy algorithm because you're greedy for as many Hall of Fame interviews as possible. That means you have to find people who are just within the reach of Hall of Fame, not somebody who's 1 year, 2 years away. Everybody wants to lose weight, given, but you want the person who's tried a few coaches and failed and who's falling in love with you. Same example on the weight loss. And then finally, the final one of the final takeaways I have, and I request all to think very deeply is, do you see that, Sid shared astounding numbers, but more than 95% of the income is coming through 2 people and 3 Jewish founders? Facebook, Google, right? So just imagine our dependency on the inorganic traffic, right? You're fighting. Your sleepless nights and stress is because of just 3 people, 2 people. So if you think first principles, how do we get rid of that? You want to decrease your dependence on them. Everybody in agreement with that? Just imagine that. 3 people are the cause of your spouse fights. And many other fights. Yeah. So my request is, do not be drunk on performance marketing. It's great, but do not be drunk on it. How many of you want to move away from Facebook and Google ads completely? Yeah. So the small approach that I have, and I would strongly urge you to thinking is, there are niches where you will have really good results on blogs, like chat, like people searching. People are searching a lot. For instance, they definitely search for AI, blockchain, courses, and upskilling. They search for like IIT JEE coaching, so on and so forth. If you're in one of those niches, exploit that. It's really, really cheap to build long-term assets, and also fits very, very, very well with your design for a 30 or a 40-year company. Do not be married to ads. So we've had very good success, reasonably good success. We've, again, webinar hiring formula for content. I had no idea about content, but I recorded because I had to get people to love me, right? 20-hour rule, remember 10-hour rule, and drove traffic to that. Naukri ad was 2,000, 5,000 rupees. Glassdoor was about, Indeed was another 5,000. I had 70 people sit in that webinar. We found 4 to 3 content writers. They're writing content for us. We wrote 73 blogs, and we have, we started getting average sales in L2 and L3. I think we're on track to mode of ads completely by 2025. So no more performance marketing, no more of that headache. Yeah. I would strongly encourage you to think about that. Some of our blogs are doing really well, and also it attracts the right kind of customer. Somebody who's not just watching. A person who watches a video and takes action, typically, is less better off than a person who is able to read and make a decision, right? Cool. So I want to conclude with just 2 points, food for thought. Which is your favorite character in Iron Man? Excellent. Anybody else? I know why Sandeep likes Iron Man. Myself. Okay. Huh? Okay, great. So we're getting Iron Man, Thor, and all this usual. So some narrative. When I was a kid, one of my uncles, really well educated, went to MIT back in the day. He bought me this figurine, and I was in love with it for 30, 35 years. But I fell out of love with it after I realized one insight. There's one more Avenger who's really, really powerful. It's Nick Fury. Nick Fury is the guy who assembles the team. Nick Fury is the chessboard that Sid's talked about. Your job is not to fall in love with the heroes. You have to assemble the heroes. Yeah. Yeah. So 3 takeaways, simple webinar hiring formula for X. Do your HOF greedy algorithm, be ruthless about that. And SEO, get out of performance marketing. Don't be drunk on that. And last point. So everybody remembers the vision statement Sid set for all of us very nicely, generously. Remember that number? 10 crore by 2030, I guess. 2030. 2030. Yeah, let's aim big. Srimaya, come on. It's not 8 p.m. yet. Okay. Everybody has that written on the goal card, right? You have to. Sid just said that, right? I would request you to write a small tweak to that. Anybody knows what that tweak is? Yes. Please write a comma and say you're going to be spending less than 10 hours a week doing everything. Max. That's it. The goal is not revenue, but revenue by time divided by number of employees. Cool. Thank you so much for your value.
Are you done? Sorry. Okay. Awesome. Receive it. Big round of applause.
I have to lose more weight for that. Thank you.
Jay, this is the first time you're speaking?
I told the 2 times I spoke, right? So
Okay.
3rd time's the charm, so yeah.
Was it mind-blowing? Yes. Could you see through the geek genius mind? You didn't understand the geek part, but the last 3 bullet points, all of you understood, right? That's all matters. Yeah? But Jay, every time you come up with an idea, it's amazing. In fact, Jay has given me so many ideas, even in the quantum process, because he thinks like a systems guy. He thinks in multiple different angles. Your presence in alphas has played a huge role in this entire quantum growth. I just want to tell you that. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm definitely not grateful to you.
Please don't.
I'm not thankful to you.
Yeah.
I'm not thankful that you've changed my life. I'm not in love with you.
Yes.
But I also want to give this take this opportunity to thank my team members, Savisachi, who's come
Yes,
from
let's
Madurai.
come up,
We are a remote first company.
Let's
We
give a
have
round of
11
applause to
members.
his team member.
And want to thank quickly all the people, Shruti, Pallavi, Mitesh, and all the others, Sauropal, who've given all the valuable inputs as I put the PPT.
Awesome, awesome. You're going to get a dose from Pallavi. She's waiting, okay? On your time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Okay.
Just kidding, just kidding. Let's big round of applause for Jay. Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Jay, thank you for inspiring, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.